What's up, guys? Coach Z here for Walk On Warrior. Hey, I wanted to go over a couple specific questions that I get asked on a daily basis. And those questions are, how do I get recruited coming from a small school? What can I do to get recruited from a small school? Another question is why is it harder to get recruited from a small school? And then also some things to think about when it comes to all these questions when it comes to coming from a small school. Well, listen, there's no secret that coming from a small high school is going to have its challenges and things that you're going to have to overcome. And listen, like I've said before, getting recruited requires you to take on more responsibility as a player. Fortunately, we have technology today and a media presence that offers numerous platforms and capabilities to showcase yourself and communicate with those programs. And there's specific measures and things that you can do to open up those opportunities. And one of them that I did not really have true access to and understanding of is understanding your highlight film. Understanding that, listen, it's all about what you do on the field. And we'll talk about academics in a minute because that's, of course, the most important. But you got to be able to really just pique the interest of a lot of these schools and these recruiters. And how do you do that if they've got thousands of these schools, or if these schools have thousands of kids on their desk right now that they're looking to just absolutely organize and break it down to their top 10? Listen, you got to set your highlight film up to where the first 3 to 5 clips are going to just completely knock their socks off. A lot of kids get this absolutely wrong. For example, on one of my most recent podcast episodes, I got a buddy that when he was coming out of high school, he was told to put an entire film, like an entire game film, and put it together and send it to all these schools. Well, guess what? That's one of the biggest mistakes you could ever make, because these schools are not interested in entire game. They want to see your best, your top 3 to 5. You're looking to get exposure. The top 3 to 5 clips is all they're going to look at. And if they really get excited, then they will watch more than that. But if they only see 1 or 2, boom, they are going to be gone. Listen, the next thing is you have to be able to be a pretty good communicator, whether it's on social media or sending out emails. It's important with your social media. I don't want to go past this, that whatever social media sites that you like to use the most, and you think, well, you know what, this is where the coaches are going to see me, you need to make sure your profile is locked and dialed in. For example, you need to make sure your highlight film is on there. We just talked about that. You need to make sure that your height, weight, you need to make sure and put your grades on there. If you've got a good GPA, put that on there. Put your full name on there. A lot of kids make the mistake of having their profiles, have a random name on there, like T-Money or something of that nature. You do not want to make this coach's life harder than it is. You want to make sure that you're putting everything on there, but just enough. You don't want to blow them away to where they absolutely get confused. A confused buyer in the business world is always a buyer that doesn't buy at all because they get confused. So the next thing is also your emails. Make sure that you put in your emails, not all your stats and all that. You want to make sure and put those things that I just mentioned right there and be very respectful. Yes, sir. No, sir. Put all that information on there and then send that out. And be proactive with it. Be persistent, because coaches constantly, they check their emails and they're getting thousands of these messages. Just be patient with it. And I promise you that eventually coaches will probably give you a response. And if they don't, they may, see it, but don't put a lot of time into it because maybe they don't have your position available. And they may, when they're talking to other schools, say, you know what, this kid emailed me a whole bunch of times. He's a running back. Well, I heard you guys need a running back. Go ahead and take him. Another way to get some exposure and be proactive is through camps, right? Camps is a really popular thing. I'm going to give you the lowdown on what camps are. Camps are more or less a money grab for a lot of these schools so that they can fill their databases and get more names of prospects out there to get past the recruiting rules. Now, I'm not saying that is a bad thing, that you go to these camps. The reason you go to these camps is so you can get a little bit more exposure, like I said, but you can also build communication skills with coaches. You can get their direct numbers, their direct emails, and things that go directly to them. And so that actually makes it a lot easier for you on the backside, so you don't have to do even more, moving around trying to figure out how to communicate and how to connect with these coaches. You can have direct lines of communication on top of that. So, and then also use your resources as best as you can. Now, what is a resource? Use your coaches on top of that. So this is just, like I said, another way to get connected. And how do I get exposure? Coaches, high school coaches especially, no matter what school it is, if they are a good college at the next level, they will have your head coach's information and vice versa. So you want to build a good relationship with your head coach. And if you don't build a good relationship with your head coach, then you're going to be in a tough situation because he doesn't want to go above and beyond to help you out. Now, another way to get exposure is making sure, like I said earlier, the main key to this is your academics. We see it all the time at the next level. 5-star, 4-star, 3-star guys. The stars, don't worry about that. Understand that the academics is key. If you want a scholarship, you want a position, or you're in a situation where maybe it's too late when a coach looks for a player, it does not matter. Number one, they're looking for academics. If you have poor academics, you will discontinue or disqualify yourself from any opportunity at all. So forget about a scholarship. If you do not have your academics straightened out, then you're in bad shape. Next question, why is it harder to get recruited from a small school? Well, it might seem obvious, but it's worth understanding the challenges you're going to face, like I said, in order to gain perspective and control of your recruiting coming from high school, from a small high school, right? So relationships, remember that, relationship building is the key to recruiting, and larger high schools probably already have built these relationships with colleges. And, with that being the case, and that makes it a lot easier for athletes to access or have access to networks of programs. At smaller high schools, you might not be on a coach's radar because it's hard to get there. It's far away, and you're just not going to have the full ability to build those relationships. The next thing is reputation. Some of these bigger schools or certain large schools are known for probably producing the best players year in and year out. So as a result, college coaches flock to these schools in search of talent, right? This doesn't mean that these are the only schools that that are producing talent, but college coaches, if there's a reputation, they spend more time at these schools. And your job as a small school recruit is to show them how to find you and their number of ways that you can benefit their program, and so on. Also, the one thing that makes it difficult for a school to build that reputation or build that communication with the next level recruiter is the level of competition that you play at a smaller school. Coaches are going to be a little bit prejudiced when it comes to these kind of things because naturally they're going to a lot of times they take a kid because he went to a bigger school versus a smaller school because of competition. Whether you guys are exactly the same height, weight, 40 time, statistics and all that, it just is what it is. But understanding that that's another challenge that you're going to run into when it comes to the recruiting process. Like I said, now I'm not saying that just because that there's a bigger school or a smaller school that they're not going to come and recruit you, but they will think twice on spending more money to make the 3-hour drive to come see you versus 20 minutes down the road. And then finally, the last thing I would say is the things to keep in mind, when you're dealing with this getting recruited from a small school is being a small school doesn't mean that it's going to be completely invisible to you. What I mean is for a college recruiter to just be completely invisible of you. You have to go out and make it visible so that they see you, right? Just because, like I said, just because you go to a small school doesn't mean that you're invisible or non-existent in the recruiting world. It simply means that you might have to do more than the average player to get yourself visible and get yourself out there. In fact, with technology these days, social media and communication platforms, getting recruiting from a small school is even more plausible. So you guys are kind of blessed than what I was back in the day. And it happens very frequently where these young, small school student athletes are getting more exposure because of that. because there's an added challenge equals an added responsibility. Coming from a small school, it absolutely requires more responsibility. And you, as, the prospective recruit, which means that you should have to be more proactive or have that proactive mindset at all times. Make sure that you're initiating contact with coaches. Share your highlights, like I said, to larger audiences and almost like a mass email as best as you can. Look for different opportunities to play in recruiting-based environments. As I was just kind of describing earlier, just put yourself in a more variety-based way. And then use your resources, man. While online profiles, email, social media, and other forms of technology are essential for recruitment, one of your best resources, like I said, could be the network of people that in the sports world. Your head coach is always going to be one of the best resources. So you have to really think twice about building relationships with them and how you act around them, because they are going to be that reference that you want and you need moving forward to that next level, because coaches want to build relationship with other coaches and they want to trust those coaches. So if they can't trust your head coach and his word, well, they're not going to come back to that high school and build those relationships anymore. So understand. So these are some questions to ask yourself, and here's ways that you can get past, being a small school student athlete. And also remember that I did the exact same route that you are looking to take. And so if you are coming from a small school, listen, these are some things that you definitely can think about and get yourself a leg up on the recruiting process.